Good morning, Rabbi Isai. So yesterday we learned that you need to have the right intent for the right owner. If Reuven brings a carbon, the kohen cannot think that he's bringing a carbon for Shimon, it ruins it. And we brought this nazar, El Nazar, the ram that a nazar brings. Shar Shlomim Minolan. Ashkechan El Nazir, Shar Shlomim Minolan. Okay, very good. You see by the ram of the nazir, you have to have the right intent. Very good. But how do you know other karbanos? And let's start off with shlomim. Other shlomim. This is a shlomim that this nazir brings. What about other shlomim? V'chiteima. And if you'll say neilef meil nazir, it's obvious. If the ram, you have to have intent. So too the other shlomim in the world. Take a look. A nazir has to bring 3 different karbanos: a chatas, a oil, and a shlomim. So he's a chomer thing. Anytime you have something that's extreme, and anytime you have something that's more than usual, then you can't learn from it. Since he has to bring 3 karbanos, you can't learn another carbon from it. Says the Gemara, okay. But over there it says, Imkei nichtoiv, by me it says shlamav. Notice in other Gemaras it says shalmei. Shlamav is like the improved version of shalmei. Shlamav means his karbanos, the carbon of the nazir. It doesn't say his. It says a very general lashon. My shlamim. Seems like the Torah is talking about all shlamim. The rabbis call shlamim. That comes to include all shlamim. All shlamim, you have to have the right intent. Ask the Gemara, Ashken shlamim shar kol kachim and olam. Great. So now I went from the ram of the nazir to all shlamim. What about other karbanos? What about a noila? Shar kol kachim and olam. And if you'll say you shall learn all karbanos from shlamim, just like shlamim, you have to have the right intent of the owner. So to an oila, chatas, whatever. No, I'll tell you, shlamim is different. Why is shlamim more severe than other karbanos? Malish shlamim shekain tuunin. You need 3 things together that other karbanos don't have these 3. Some of them have 1, some of them have 2, but no carbon in the world has these 3. What are the 3 things? Shekain tuunim smicha. You need to lean on the animal. Unesachim, and you need to pour the wine on the mizbeach. Utnufas chazav v'shaik. You have to wave the breast and the thigh. So you can't learn from something that has all these things together. Ela Amakro, once again, Zevachim style. Zois HaTorah. This is the halacha, la'oila, la'mincha, v'la'chatas, v'la'asham, v'la'miluim, v'la'zevach ha'shlamim. We're going to learn all these karbanos from what? From the shlamim. Hikisha na'akasav l'shlamim, all karbanos are similar to shlamim. We just established that shlamim, you have to have the right intent for the owner. You can't think about another owner. You cannot flip a shlamim to oila. That's shinu kodesh. You cannot flip Reuven to Shimon. That's shinu bailam. Avkol ben shinu kodesh ben shinu bailam by shlamim. Just like we learn by shlamim, so too other karbanos. Be'in on l'shma, you'll need all. In all karbanos, you need the l'shma in both things. You can't flip a carbon. Can't flip the owner. We just established, Rabbi, so you need l'shma, this psukim that tell you have to have intent. So what does that typically tell me? If the pasuk says you have to have intent, and you don't have intent, what's going to happen? It should be possible. Why is it that in our Mishnah, it says in the Mishnah, if I can find it here somewhere, what's the first Mishnah we learned? If you don't have the right intent, ksherim. Why kosher? The pasuk says it's possible. The pasuk doesn't say it's possible. It says you have to have intent. If you don't have intent, l'chayr it should be possible, not kosher. This is for the 3rd, 4th time, and today we're going to have it another time or two. It says in the pasuk you should keep the words of your mouth. What you made a neder for, and then the pasuk finishes off nidava. As the Gemara, Hainadava neder. What are you talking about? Didn't we say here? I'll just remind you in case you don't remember. Here. It's neder. Neder means harei alai. You are chayiv whether or not the carbon dies. Hi nedava, neder, why you telling me it's a nedava? Which means you don't have to replace that carbon. It's a neder. Ella. If you did what you promised, meaning you had the right kavana and the right lishma, it's going to be a neder. If you didn't have the right kavana, yahin nedava, continue bringing it. It's not possible. Continue bringing it as a nedava. You just have to bring another one. Says the Gemara. Okay, so I learned really from the pasuk of moitzes sifosecha that you continue bringing it. It's still kosher. Vitzrich moitzes sifosecha. Vitzrich zeis hatayra. So if the pasuk tells me that I continue bringing it, then what do I learn from zeis hatayra that says that all the animals are equal, all the karbanos are equal to the shlamim? Yeah, we learn two things here, says the Gemara. The Chazarah maitza. If I would just say the pasuk moitzes sifosecha, that if you don't have the right kavana, you should continue bringing the carbon. So the Gemara, if I learn from moitzes sifosecha that you need lishma, then why do I need the whole shlamim thing? That everything is. You see, for moitzes sifosecha, you keep on going. So then, what am I learning from the pasuk that says that all the karbanos are equal? So very simple. It doesn't say anywhere in the pasuk in moitzes sifosecha that we're talking about a lishma. That's like a jump. Says the Gemara, I wouldn't know what we're talking about. I don't know that we're talking about a lishma, not a lishma. That we learn from, we know that shlamim needs lishma. And we learn that all the karbanos are similar to shlamim. So you need lishma, you have to think about the owner, you have to think about the right carbon in all karbanos. Because of Rachmana Zeis HaTorah, okay, so I'll just have the Zeis HaTorah like we started the sugya. Havamina lipaslu, but in that pasuk it doesn't say whether or not it's kosher or not. L'chayra, it should not be kosher. If the Torah tells you to do something and you don't do it, so it's not kosher. It's a big chiddush. So the combination of the two, we have a pasuk that talks about the shema, so to speak, the pasuk of kakeli. That pasuk teaches us that you need lishma, but we have another pasuk that tells us that if you don't have that lishma, it's still kosher. So that's why I need the combination of the two. Rami Rish Lakish al Mahai. So right over here, this is Gishmak. Super interesting. It says that Rish Lakish was laying on his stomach and asking questions in the base medrash. What was his question? And we're going to be dealing with this question for most of today's daf. What's going on with this carbon? We have to understand, if this carbon is a good carbon, so why doesn't it bring a kapara to the owner? And if it doesn't bring a kapara to the owner, what's the point of bringing it? Omar Loi. So this Omar Loi Rebbe Lazar. I think the Gir says Rebbe Lazar over here. Whatever, Lazar. What is your big question? I'll give you another example of something that you bring as a carbon and it does zero for the original owner, the snan. A woman, she gives birth, so she has to bring two karbanas. She has to bring a chatas, which is a bird, and she has to bring a sheep as an oila. And she died. She died in between the two karbanas. So depends which one she brought first. If she brought the chatas first, so you're permitted to bring the oila after she dies. That's his raya. Why would you bring the oila? What's the point? She's dead. So you see that even though it's not a good oila, you just continue bringing it. But here's the problem. If she brought the oila first and then she died, could you bring a chatas after she dies? No. It's one of the 5 chatais that must die. So what do we just see? That if the owner dies and the chatas survives, the chatas is alive, can't bring it, nothing to do with it. Put it in a room, and there's a levaya afterwards. That's why if she brings the oila first, the chatas is not brought. But if she brings the chatas first, what's left in oila? Oila you could bring after she dies. But they're proving from here. They answered Rish Lakish. There is such a thing as a carbon that doesn't accomplish a kapara, yet you bring it. It's not a isha shevi chatas v'meisa. Yivi yashim elasa. Elasa v'meisa. Leivi yashim chatas. Amarlei. He says great raya, but that doesn't answer my question. Amarlei magdinalach ba'ila. You're right. That's a woman who didn't bring the oila. I can bring it. That's ilachar misa. Asham. So this is his. Let's remember this part of the question. Asham doesn't come lachar misa. Asham comes for an avera, and if a person dies, you don't bring it. So the actual Asham, as we're going to see later what we do with it exactly. But the actual Asham doesn't come. So why is it that if you have a carbon Asham and the Kayan thought about that this is for Shimon or this is Shlamim instead of a Asham, why would you continue bringing the Asham? Ayla makes sense because an Ayla comes after the death of the owner, so bring it, continue bringing it. But an Asham that doesn't come after the death of the owner, so if the Kayan messes up with intent, what's the point of bringing it? Where do you see that you bring in an Asham that doesn't come for a kapara? Amalei. So they told him, Harei machlukutcha betzidai. You're right, great. What you're saying is a very good point. And that's the Shita, Rebbe Lezer Oimer Afa Asham. That's the Shita of Rebbe Lezer. That's why they're probably not Goyris Rebbe Lezer, and they say Rebbe Lezer. I just realized now. So Rebbe Lezer is saying, Rebbe Lezer in the Mishnah says, Afa Asham. You're right. Even the Asham is puzzle. And you're asking me why Asham should continue? It doesn't continue according to Rebbe Eliezer. You're perfect. You're like Rebbe Eliezer. Amar Zeu Shoimir Malav Adam Gadalu. So he says one of the famous shtochs in Shas. A lot of times in Shas, or very very sharp lashon. This is a person they say is a gadol. Kamina no Mishnah is shlema. I'm talking about the Tanakama, a real Mishnah. That obviously Rebbe Eliezer, and you're telling me Rebbe Eliezer. I'm not talking good. So there's a shita. I'm asking you, why does the Tanakama say that the Asham should continue and pretend nothing happened, and the Kohen should continue bringing it as a carbon? Where do we find that a carbon that doesn't come after the death of the owner should continue? Elo Amar Rish Lakish. You know what says Rish Lakish? You guys are not helping me out. Let me figure it out myself. Let me figure this out. I'll open up. I'll come up with a solution by myself. I forgot to mention. Even though I put it in my Gemara, but I didn't have a sticker, and I put an arrow. Forgot to tell you. The whole sugya, says Rashi, Rish Lakish didn't know about our answer that we said on Amud Beis about the pasuk of Moises Sifasecha Tishmor Vasiza. That's why I asked. It's a pasuk that you continue. You just continue. Asham, this we said together with Kokeli with Moises Sifasecha. What? I don't know. I guess not. It wasn't so famous, the pshat. And he comes up with the pshat. Moises Sifasecha, and he asks the question. Hay nedava nederu. You start off with the neder. Why you tell me it's in the dava rezu? Kidalel. Like we said, pshat, and that's what you learn from Moises Sifasecha. You start off with the neder. Try to have the kavana. If you don't have the kavana, then it flips into a nedava. But continue bringing it. All these people, Reb Zeir, Reb Yitzchak, and the Rebbe was sitting around. They were saying, "Kashi leil Rish Lakish." So we're gonna have here in this sugi like three of these, all talking about Rish Lakish. It's very unique that they're all sitting and discussing Rish Lakish. Asham, Kashi leil Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish has a question. Asham leil Lacher Misa. How does it make sense that Asham you cannot bring it as a forgiveness after the death of the owner? And so how do you bring it? How do you continue bringing it? It's like the death of the owner is like no lishma. And the Gemara answers, he answers, you see, it's a pasuk that you could. Ema. So they asked, what are you learning from the pasuk? What is Moses? Neder Nedava. It says in the Torah, Neder Nedava. Something like a Taida. Something like a Oila. That's a Neder. That's a Nedava. I'm giving it, not because I did an Aver, because I want to do something for the Rebbe Shalom. I want to bring a carbon. I want to get close to Hashem. Maybe that you should continue bringing, and it doesn't accomplish what it's supposed to set out to accomplish. But a Asham that comes from an Avera that's not in the pasuk of Moises Sifasecha, maybe you shouldn't bring it at all. Says Abai, I don't know how Abai got to this, but Abai says you Pasha didn't understand. You missed the whole boat. Rish Lakish does bring the pasuk of Moises Sifasecha, but for something else completely. He starts out with a different pasuk. That's his raya. In the pasuk of Chatos says the word v'shochat oisa, which is an exclusion, and it says oisa l'shma kshera, shaloi l'shma psula. Only a Chazas has a major problem and an obstacle you can't continue to. That's what the Mishnah says. There's two animals, two karbanas that you don't continue with. What are the two animals you don't continue with? A chatos and what else, Rabbi say? Korban Pesach. Why? Because the Torah says by it, I saw. From this pasuk I learned that all other korbanos are fine. Continue. So then why did Rish Lakish bring the pasuk Moses of Pasach Tishmar? I don't know how Abai jumped to this pasuk. Like, who mentioned it at all? Shalei Shema Ba Hashar Kachim Shalei Shmon Sheirim. Even though Asham, if you don't have Lishma, even though Asham is very similar to a Chatas, but it's not a Asham. Sheir, it's not a Chatas. Kosher. Yachal. Oh, so this is why Rish Lakish brought this pasuk. Yachal L'Ratzu. Maybe it should come to. It would even give a kapara to the owner, and he won't have to bring another carbon. No, it drops down a level. It goes from a nether to nedava. You continue bringing it, but you must replace it. Okay, bring it. Maybe the pasuk is talking about a nether and a nedava. Bring it. No kapara. Maybe when it's a asham, this is like a real, like a fakert, like a afuch al afuch. Maybe the asham should not only you should bring it, but the guy will get a kapara. Omar Abayo, he says that that's impossible. Asham de miratzi le'matzis amers. You can't say that an asham is going to get a kapara. Why? Kavachaymer ma'oila, because they have a kavachaymer from ma'oila. Uma'oila she'enim chaperes enim miratza. Listen to this. This is very, very simple kavachaymer. Oila, what does oila accomplish? 10%. Let's call it 10%. Shalom Aleichem. 10%. Oila, it doesn't do a lot. It does very little. It doesn't get rid of your averis. We're going to see. It gets rid of some of your mitzvahs, your assays, when you're over an assay. But a asha, and nevertheless, what do I say? No, it's not miratza. You have to bring another one. So something that does 100%, certainly it shouldn't work. If the 10% guy, the guy that does very little, and it doesn't work, I have to replace it. So a guy that wants to do much more than 10%, wants to do 100%, and be mechaper all your averis, certainly it shouldn't work. I want to learn that an asham is not miratza, that I have to bring another carbon. Just like an oila, the oila is not mechaper on an aveira. It is mechaper on asay, but it's not mechaper. It's nevertheless in a miratza. It does very little, and yet it doesn't even accomplish that very little. Asham is mechaper. Asham that works really hard. It does much more, so certainly it shouldn't do the whole job. And it didn't change in miratza. Certainly it is not going to accomplish. You're going to have to replace it. So that's why it goes up there. It says Mala oila shekain kalal. No, don't learn asham from oila because oila is kalal. You have to burn the entire animal. So the Gemara says, okay, but then shlamim yichiv, I have something else that you don't burn completely called shlamim.
It's still not miratza.
And it's still not miratza. And learn asham from it that it's not miratza. Mala shlamim shekain tunim nesachim. You bring wine with no chaz v'shayik and you wave the chaz v'shayik. Boom, oila knocks that out because oila doesn't have those two yet. It's not miratza. The Chazarah din, so it goes in around in a circle. The oila has something special called kolel. And the shlamim has something special called nesachim chaz v'shayik. Each one has a maila. That's the shavshamim. But the bottom line is there's a common denominator between shlamim and oila. Shem kachim, they are korbanos. Ushchatim shalei shema and ksherim. And if you shecht it without the right intent, it's kasher ve'emeratim, and it doesn't accomplish. Afaniyavi, asham, shu kodesh, ushchodesh le'lishmai, kasher ve'emeratim. So I can learn asham from it here. Let me bring the asham back up here. That what I learned from the oila and from the shlamim, the two of them together teach us asham is not meratza. I have to bring another carbon. But it's not true. Oh, so if lo that. Now we put in here an iratza, next step, but they have a tzibur. Toida, toichiach. Toida is not the tzibur. Toida, Rabbi say, is not the tzibur. Okay? So Toida comes, and therefore, if all three of these things, they're karbanas, and you have to have the right lishma, and if you don't have the shma, you bring it anyways, but it's not meratza, meaning you have to bring another one, so too asham should be in that category. Daf Amud Beis. Check this out. You have to bring the 40 breads. Mala says she came to an lechem. Says Gemara, Oila Shlomo Yechichu, but Oila and Shlomo prove they don't have the 40 breads. The Chazarah din. So each one has a Maila. Toida has the breads. The Shlomo has the Zevachim. Oila has the fire. But bottom line is, what's the common denominator? Lo rizeh k'rizeh, lo rizeh k'rizeh. Hasal shavish behem shem kachim, u'shchadim shalei lishman kashav ein miratza. Afani avi yasham shu kodesh. The bottom line is, you shechted without the shema, it's kosher, you keep on going, nothing happened, you keep on moving forward. Ve'ein miratza. Malatzal shavish behem shem boim beneder u'benedava. Asham doesn't come as a gift to Hashem. It comes because you have to bring it because you messed up. You did an aver. You swore falsely when you stole something. Hashem shivich harufa, Hashem gzelos, Hashem mi'ilois, whatever it is. It's for using something in the Beis Hamikdash. You messed up. All these other ones, shlamim, this oila, is all voluntary. Elo amarava. Oh, typical Zevachim. Zois ha-Torah. We come up with the Gzeres HaKasuv. This is a pasuk. Hekisha HaKasuv Shlamim. What's this ha-Torah? Raboisai. I'm not going to show you the video again. The Kokeli pasuk. That all the Karbonas are mentioned, and they're all similar to the Shlamim. Hekisha HaKasuv Shlamim. And ma Shlamim she'en kachim u'shchodim sh'lishmon ksherim ve'ein miratzim. Just like Shlamim is a carbon. And if you do shchita without the right intent, you think about Shimon instead of Reuven. Ksherim, it's kosher, you can continue. Weiter. Ve'ein miratzim, you have to bring another one. Yes, you go weiter in life. You got to deal with the past. Sometimes you still got to bring another, but you go weiter. Says the Gemara, okay, but look at this. If we look at this picture, what do you see in this picture? Chatas is on the right, Shlamim is in the left. Why did you decide that all the Karbanos should be similar to the one on the left? Maybe it should be the one on the right. And what does the Mishnah say on the one, about the one on the right? If you mess up on a Chatas, what do? Throw it into the garbage. In other words, burn it. Who told you to say that all Karbanos is like a Shlamim? My chaz the actions the shlomi, magish the chatas. Says the Gemara, Amir Rachman Oisa. You're right, great question, but it's Gzeres HaKasuv. We had in the pasuk over there by chatas, v'shachad Oisa. Only it is something you throw in the garbage. Only chatas you throw in the garbage, not Asham, Shlamim, Taida, all the Miluim and all the other things. Yosef, Rav Huna, Rav Nachman, another one of them sitting around, talking and learning. Yosef, Rav Huna, Rav Nachman, Yosef, Rav Shishis Gabayu, V'yasvi Kamri, Kashli, Rosh Lakish Asham. Rosh Lakish and Amud Aleph asked the question, I don't understand. The Asham, the Lo Yosef Lachar Misa, since Asham doesn't come after the death of the owner, so over here, if the Kaya messes up and thinks that it's for Shimon instead of Reuven, why do you continue bringing it? And what was the answer? Anybody remember the answer? There's a Kasav, Moises Fosecha, we have Psukim. Ask the Gemara, Misa does come after the death of the owner. How? In a form of an oila. It comes for something else. The money goes for an oila. The original asham does not go on the mizbeach. Okay, very good. You didn't accomplish anything, because if you want to go that route, there's a case of a chatos when somebody designated 2 animals for 1 chatos, and he brought one. Now what do you do with the other one? You same thing. Goes to the Yirachi stuff park, wait for it to do a flip and fall on its head, and then you can redeem it. But chatos also have that. And if the owner died in between, you can. Usually, if owner dies by a chatos, you don't do anything with it. But in this case, when you brought 2, even a chatos, you could send it to the Yirachi stuff park and get an oila for it. So memela, that doesn't count. Says the Gemara, chatos avagav the karva meisara mi'at rachmanahu. Chatos, you're right. Okay, good. You could bring it. You could do Yirachi stuff. Mi'at rachmanahu. Another pasuk, rabbis. Here we go. Here's the pasuk. Chatos who? Okay, this is mi'ut that if it wasn't l'shma, get rid of it. Says Gemara, Asham namik sibehu. Here it says meforish. Asham who? Same who? Says Gemara, very good. When are we saying that there's a ritzui, there's a kapara? Let's think about it. When's the top time in the 4 avodos that the guy gets a kapara? By the zrika. When he sprinkles the blood on the mizbeach, he gets the kapara. This pasuk of Asham Hu is after that. It's too late. You already got a kapara. If you already got a kapara, you can't go retroactive and say you got to get a new kapara. You already did zrika. We're talking about imurim, putting the meat onto the mizbeach. That's later. That's called imurim. That's something else. That's when the Torah says ashamu. So ashamu cannot be an exclusion that it doesn't work. It worked already. It's too late. It says Mefurish in the Braysa. Since the Lashon doesn't have who, the word who came after you already put the animal parts on the mizbeach. But the animal itself, let's say the kohen forgot to put the meat on top of the mizbeach. Kosher. It's completely kosher. So why do I need the word who? Why do I need this Asham who? What do I learn from the who? Beautiful thing. We saw that this animal, first the owner dies, then we bring this animal to what? To the Yirat Yistav park. Let me ask you something. What happens when the animal goes into the park? Is he a Asham or an Oila? The answer is he flips into a Oila, even before his injury. Asham Shenitak Liria. You put the Asham aside that it should go graze and get a Befolamum. Ushchatistam, and somebody came over there and shechted it. Reb David. Stop. Kosher. It becomes kosher for what? For an oila. And we learn, nitakin, only if you put him through that door, into the park. Lo nitak loy, but you didn't do it yet? Not. My time on makro, who? Yes. So this is what we learn from this pasuk, that once he's a oila, not a asham, then even if you shecht it without any kavana, it's a shchita of a oila, but it has to be that you put him into that park. If he's before going into the park, it remains asham and it's not a oila. Rabbi Sai, have a 1 second. Matzi Shabbos in English, 9:30. Check out the new time, 9:30. Hebrew 10:30. Have a wonderful day. A good Erev Shabbos.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDAF.com.